I had a really beautiful experience today. Um, it shouldn't have been so unexpected because I'm definitely in a mother role with these two young people. But I guess I just didn't realize how well respected I am by them. Have you ever had a roommate that you needed to throw out? Have you ever had your boundaries violated over the topic of social drugs, party drugs? Have you ever felt like you're gonna ruin everything? You stand up for your own rights and boundaries. I have, and I found it very serendipitous that this topic was presented to me. Yesterday, I got a message from a person in my life that I consider to be a bit of a daughter to me. I know there's someone out there who'd be really offended by that because she considers herself to be my only daughter. That's fine. She's got almost 30 years of that role. She can be territorial. Uh, but the message was that they want to run by me how to handle a conflict with one of their roommates. So this morning I got up. I went to the workshop to do some laser cutting. I had made this shelf. I love drawers. I love organizational units. I love shelves. I love drawers. I love hidden things. I only want to look at something if it's aesthetically pleasing and if it also has additional value of being something that, in its aesthetic pleasure, does not make me feel anxious and like I need to take action because, oh, I see this paint here. Oh, I see this fabric here. So it's a little game, a hide and seek of display and hiding. So I got into recycling the backboards of shelves into boxes and small, like, desktop shelves of drawers, chests of drawers. And some people have asked, well, why don't you just go to IKEA and buy it? It costs €5. Well, the question contains the answer. Why don't I go to IKEA? I don't want to go to IKEA. I don't want to spend €5 on something. I want to make something. I want to have a connection with the object that's holding my objects. I want to have to make effort. I want to have to think about the actual labor involved in keeping something, anything, even like this great little holographic album. I love looking at it. It gives me a lot of joy. It makes me laugh. And so it gets to sit on my desk. But everything is important. And the act of making this chest of drawers brought me a lot of joy. And I keep my very precious sewing threads and implements in there. And I made this tiny desktop chest of drawers at the time when I was living with this young person not so long after her mother had passed away. I think it's really interesting something that was said at my son's birthday party. My partner came, and their natural inclination was to bring a bottle of wine and a couple of beers. In the end, they were the only person that drank any of these things. For the 20 or so young people in their mid to upper 20s, early 30s. And my partner asked me, oh, young people are getting so conservative. That's not like our generation. But the irony of it is I'm in our generation, and I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't even do caffeine. So for me, my natural inclination is never to bring a bottle with anything. Like there's some cookies that are okay, or bring some food, or maybe some kombucha or water container that I've made, or some sorrel. But the idea of socializing, meaning inebriation, alcohol, it's not something I do. And so, I got this message. And as I was laser cutting, I told them, okay, I'm in the neighborhood today, come down. So the two kids, young people came over, and I was laser cutting some things for a collection of prints that I'm working on, a massive collection of prints, kind of a magnus opus level of magnitude. And first we played a guessing game, and I thought, okay, what are things that would really be bad? One of the kids is transgender, and another of the kids is just a special kind of personality, as in when I was leaving this household and I wanted to make sure that let's call this person Lily. I wanted to make sure that Lily was in a safe place. I spoke to about 20 or 25 people until I found this one roommate. And I spoke with her. I didn't really get to know her. I just knew I was okay with her character. And then I introduced them. They got off like a house on fire. And so we started to rebuild Lily's new life, new home, not living in my mother's home anymore, in a new neighborhood, and in, this particular stage of transition from original gender to transhuman. And one of the qualities that I had a bit of a problem with regarding this roommate, the roommate for Lily, was that she was a recent arrival from Southern Europe and she really liked to party. But I also felt that she was a bit of a grandma, so, you know, it could be negotiated. And I explained to her, this is an alcohol free, drug free, tobacco free household. All of these things are things that she herself does in a party context. So, it was interesting that she was so agreeable, but a cheap room for rent in Berlin in a highly fashionable neighborhood. Yeah, that'll do it. But it was also just because it was her own sensibility of what kind of environment she wanted to live in. It was not one where people were doing lines of cocaine or ketamine or E or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So my first instincts were that the new girl had hit on the other two, because that would be awful. I went through a lot of guesses, and my visitors in the lab checked out the aesthetics I was playing with from my work. And finally, I gave up. And I said, okay, what is it? What has she done? Drugs. Drugs were the problem. Doing drugs in the house. Not just one plate of lines, but many over the last month or so, to the point that even, uh, let me give her a name. So we have Lily, my daughter figure, and we have Jessica. Let's say Jessica, the roommate that I found and brought in, screamed. Well, Jessica didn't like it. Doesn't like this person's attitude. Doesn't like this person is actually smoking indoors. It's a non-smoking household. So we have all the things that shouldn't be happening. And so for Lily, there's this position, this very difficult position of being someone who has to say, this isn't something we can talk about. You actually have to go. I give you 30 days. You need to make sure that you've contributed enough for the electric and heat because unfortunately this is somebody who always leaves the lights and the heat and everything on when they leave the house. And it's a really awkward position to be in. So what do you do when someone has reached your absolute hard boundaries? And this is where the conversation really gets interesting. For me, often I bend. I find a way of being ashamed of myself. My self-talk becomes difficult. Um, and I become really uncomfortable with the confrontation. I'm obviously always going to be uncomfortable with the confrontation, but I take it as a certain emblem of what's problematic with me. Um, but why is it wrong to not be comfortable having people in your personal space who are doing hard drugs or smoking or drinking? I mean, all these things are drugs. A drug is a drug is a drug. What's wrong with not liking being around that energy? Is it because we're living in a queer political context that this is wrong? Is it, does it mean that if you live in a queer subculture, you can't be religious? You can't be intentionally sober, intentionally sober without ever having addiction issues. You just don't do it. You don't like it. What's wrong with that? How did that become something that's used against us? I'm no longer really talking about kids right now because it's also a problem for me. I don't partake in anything. I'm not an addict. I never was an addict. I never had a problem. I just don't do these things. But why is it that when I get into romantic spaces inside the subculture I live with, a lot of my values are a problem for other people? It's like, well, how can you be this and not smoke marijuana? How can you be this and want to go to church or not go to church, but go to temple, mosque, and all the other things that I do, as well as sometimes going to church? I love a good mass. I love faith. I love what it does for people. I love that it's the only light sometimes in someone's life is that there's God. I also love meeting fellow souls that really, really value the comfort of knowing that when they're talking to you, you're not going to say tomorrow, oh, well, I was high or I was drunk or I wasn't feeling good or I was in the week following being high and drunk and semi-psychotic. And no, it's just what you see is what you get. You can't hide behind substances. You have to just straight out be that. So I've been asking myself a lot of questions as we've entered this fire horse, and my life has opened up to an opportunity to eliminate people who need substances to feel free, feel alive, feel sexual. I don't like any of those things. They're hard boundaries for me. And so, in talking to the kids today, it was an incredibly beautiful experience to have them putting all of this trust in me and asking advice of me. I mean, they knew they have to kick this person out of the house. It's not okay. It's a drug-free, alcohol-free, smoke-free household. And if that's what your boundaries are, that's just as important as people whose boundaries are that they want to do drugs, they want to do nicotine, they want to do alcohol. Those are their rules. Our rules are just as good. For me, it was so fantastic to have this personally validating moment. I mean, in my youth, people loved that I could always drive everybody home, that I would know where everybody's things were, and I could tell you where I saw you drop your pants, and your keys are probably in those pants when you couldn't find them. But I was also often bored because I don't really understand the value of an experience if you can only do it with the assistance of drugs. And I don't really understand the value of a sex life that if it can only happen when you're inebriated, potentially with strangers, or putting yourself at risk. I came of age during the AIDS crisis. I came of age at a moment in history where we saw how dangerous sex could be. And in all my volunteer work with people with HIV and service work for people who were dying horrible deaths, quite often much blood was involved. For me, individually, hearing thousands of these stories and the common denominator being sex used as a medicine or as a tool or as a weapon or done in ways where one has no control and where the experience is sometimes acting out psychological issues that a certain kind of sex is allowing people to either connect with or disconnect from or reclaim power lost in abuses or psychological issues. I'm not saying that everyone that has an extreme sexual lifestyle has sexual abuse in their history, but I know many hundreds of dead people who do. And in talking to them as their physical bodies were given out, it made a big impression on me. And I guess if I had been inclined towards a lifestyle of dark rooms, intoxicated, with strangers doing to me what they liked, and me doing to them whatever, on drugs was going to appeal to me, seeing all of those deaths and the price they paid for sex and drugs. Just not interested. So I don't understand why so many people are making it so hard for some young people, some middle-aged people like myself, to just have our boundaries, why they have to be pushed, why do we have to be lied to? Why is it that we have to be treated like such freaks for not wanting deleterious substances in our lives and our spaces? I understand when I go out, other people are going to drink, they're going to do drugs, they're going to do things. But I've been cultivating this idea that it kind of even got said really well on an episode of The Crown, the one where Lady Diana was talking to her therapist about the drama she was experiencing with Jodi Al-Fayed and the paparazzi, and it was summed up as it was seeking her addiction to drama, and that's how did it go? That if she keeps letting these kinds of experiences and peoples into her life, she's going to be winding up in situations where she doesn't belong with people that never should have met her, that she never should have belonged to. And that's kind of how I feel what has happened to me in my life is that by being afraid of my own boundaries, I have had a lot of experiences with people which make me feel like, oh, I just have to tolerate this. Being uncomfortable is the norm for me. But if I'd become more aware and more comfortable with my boundaries sooner, I um, I wouldn't have been the beacon of light drawing these kinds of experiences that I didn't want, these kinds of stresses that I didn't want. These people wouldn't have been in my my view. And so the beauty of these two tweenies, this tweenies, they're plus tweenies, these two people in their late 20s coming to me to stand up for what they don't like and they don't feel good about. It gives me a lot of hope. It makes me incredibly happy to be respected for having those same feelings because it's not all adults are like me. I think more often than not, most people I know would expect to bring a bottle of wine. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm excited to see what happens next. I'm also excited because at one point in the lab, there was another woman over 40s that I've been working with today. We've been doing some laser cutting and setting some presets and templates for machine settings. And I asked her what you do about somebody who's doing class A drugs, I guess it is, um, at home in a house that's meant to be drug free, alcohol free, and smoke free. And her answer was really interesting because she said, well, you should call this aunt, this office, and, say, you have a person who's doing dangerous drugs and you won't have them committed. And they come and talk to them. That's one way of getting them out of the house, whether they get committed or not. What was great about that was it was like a further, I know the kids can't go that far, but what was interesting is that Louis wrote down all the information to check out that option because now it's about protecting themselves. And for me, it's about protecting myself. And so if someone is doing things like that and their behavior's becoming erratic, they do need professional help. Not necessarily their responsibility to do it, but maybe it would make the next 30 days better if this person had been approached by an aunt about, hey, we hear that your drug usage is getting you thrown out of your house. Is there something that we can do to help? And it also keeps Jess and Lily safer and gives them more support, neutral support, institutional support. Drugs are really on the rise, and it's terrifying the simplicity, yet the devastation that some of the chemicals that are out there are causing. And I was really happy to see another adult in the room take this so seriously. But no, this is your boundary. You don't want that. that person's out. It's not your problem what consequences they next have. Your problem is that they've sullied your living environment. So I'm really taking that to heart today. And I'm asking myself, what would it be like to live in a world where people who make me uncomfortable aren't allowed in?